when we all talked about that Tampa game for 3 weeks, and then the
Bounce back.
and then the second night was the one in Columbus where they went down there and got absolutely smoked,
Just
6-2 or
didn't
6-1. Yeah, it wasn't good. But yeah, it's like you look at the schedule for December, it just doesn't stop. So it's interesting to see how they handle it.
I'm interested to hear Craig Berube on Morgan Riley. Why did you pick this clip?
He got asked about him, and he gave a sort of a synopsis of what he's been like this year for them. So I just thought it'd be a good point to talk about Riley. So
I think he's played really well for us. I think he's taken some of the. I think he's used to really getting up in the play, and he still does. And I think he's picking his spots really well with that, and defending well. He's done a good job for us, in my opinion.
Interesting that he mentioned about him getting up in the play. Do you think he asked him when he took over to not do it as much?
probably.
Yeah.
I imagine so. Like, because they started him with Tanev, so maybe they were thinking, I don't know, maybe play more of a defensive role. But to me, like when he said that about his decision making, that when Morgan Riley is at his best, the decision making could be his best sort of attribute in terms of when to jump up, when not to go, using his feet like he's really good at. But like, how would you assess his season this year?
It's not like I would say give him the Jimmy Vesey treatment and say vanilla, because it's just expectations are high for him, right? So for me, it's not that he's been bad, and I've said this about other good players in the past when they've struggled, but it's the absence of great that makes it noteworthy. He makes a lot of money to be there, number one D, and hasn't made a ton of mistakes. He's been fine, totally fine. But just we haven't seen that top end where he's great for them and a difference maker.
And it was more noticeable when he was in years past because everybody was so much worse than him.
You think that's what it was? He just
Oh, yeah.
stood out as the best of.
And now there's so much depth, and he doesn't have to over push or gamble.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's kind of pushed him down in terms of standing out so much.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's one of. He's not the guy.
Yeah, he's one of guys.
So who? He's one of.
Yeah,
Who's the most valuable defenseman in the first 20 games?
Chris Tanev.
When was the last time you ever picked another defenseman more valuable than Morgan Riley the last 10 years?
Yeah,
It's a great question.
yeah, it's not really happened, has it?
He's
Maybe
that-
Muzzin had a little run there.
No,
Maybe.
never.
Yeah.
Never. He had to have been your number one guy, or else the team was struggling.
Mm-hmm.
That's the difference now.
Sorry, he's just down almost 2 minutes per game this year from last year.
Yeah,
He's down for 2 minutes.
and I don't hate that.
Neither do I.
He's going to end up with 50 points, right? 45, 50 points, which is fine.
Yeah.
But it doesn't need to be 70 right now. It doesn't need to be the guy with all the weight on his shoulders.
Yeah.
So Leafs, very good quarter of a season, right?
Yes.
Yes.
And Morgan can't make enough noise to get on Team Canada. Like, if I would have told you the Leafs would have been at the top of the Atlantic after the quarter mark, and I told you that Morgan Riley was not going to be one of 6, 7
Mm-hmm.
Canadians on Team Canada, would you said, I don't know.
So
He'd almost have to be, wouldn't he?
I feel like your point is less about Morgan Riley and how he's played this year, and more about in the past. You feel like he was overvalued, overused, overrated, even
Over-needed.
Yeah.
And he felt it.
Over-leaned on.
Mhm.
Over-leaned on, is he a Norris kind of guy? Well, he's a good defenseman,
Mhm.
but he might one day have a career year where he could maybe get some votes for the Norris, but he's not Norris material.
Mhm.
And now he's amongst a group with some good depth, and we'll see how good as the season progresses, but he's not needed and counted on every game to do what he thought he needed to do in years past.
So how has that affected the way he's played, in your opinion? Has he played the same level he's been at in the past, and it's just less noticeable?
It's less noticeable.
But he's been basically the same player for you?
No, he's not as flashy.
Mhm.
He doesn't stand out as much.
Yeah.
And they're winning. this will go a lot farther for the Toronto Maple Leafs, this Morgan Riley, than the one that we've seen in the past.
Yeah.
So if we're talking about what's best for the team, then this is the Morgan Riley I want. If we want to talk about how does Morgan look like he's worth $7.5 million every night, now you're kind of pushing the envelope on what he's capable of doing or not capable of doing.
He was so good against Tampa in the series they won.
Oh, yeah.
Like that, he was their
Yeah.
MVP.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a tremendous run for him. So, I do hope that he has more flashes of
I
that
think he's
and not
got
just
he's
this.
he's got potential to get to that spot again. Maybe we'll see how matchups go too, because Berube now knows that one of the best shutdown pairs in the league is Tanev and McCabe.
Well, that should open
That's-
Morgan for more of the top end stuff, right?
We'll see. Yeah.
Now I
We'll
wonder, in the past we've talked about the Leafs adding a D-man.
Yeah.
Interesting to see who Morgan plays with in playoffs.
His D partner is playing for Nashville.
You think so? Oh, that's your Shen is still coming.
If you look behind
Right.
you, that jersey
I-
that has a 2 on it.
I don't mind.
Oh,
might
it's a
be Luke-
Shen jersey
yeah,
behind
maybe,
me,
yeah.
isn't it?
I think Morgan is doing everything he's supposed to right now, and that's help his team win. And it may come at a cost of not standing out as much as maybe he'd like to, being flashy enough to make a Team Canada, but at this point of his career, he doesn't care about Team Canada compared to what's at stake for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
This guy to me is like, he's the perfect Leaf. I mean, do you ever hear him complain? They're going to 5 forwards, or they go to OEL, or they go to Rasmus Sandin, or whoever it is on the power play. Never once do you see him gripe or pout or drag his lip or bad body language. Like, he just plays. I appreciate that.
Yeah. And I never really thought he was a Team Canada candidate.
Nah, it was ambitious thought.
Canada's got a lot of good defensemen, boys. A lot of good defensemen in
It's a
Canada.
tough nut to crack,
It is.
Yeah.
that blue line.
Anyways, we should go for Versteeg.
Okay. When we come back, 2-time Stanley Cup champion, not just 1, 2, Christopher Stieg will join us. More Real Kipper and Bourne after the break.
The Toronto Maple Leafs may be taking a new approach to salary management, which could directly impact Mitch Marner's contract negotiations. During Kyle Dubas' tenure as general manager, the team didn't hesitate to spend heavily, and this trend began with a 6-year extension signed by Marner in 2019. At the time, Marner's $10.9 million annual cap hit set the market for superstar wingers, surpassing comparable players like Mikko Rantanen of the Colorado Avalanche, who signed a 6-year deal with a $9.25 million annual cap hit. Now, however, times seem to be changing. TSN's Pierre LeBrun recently reported that the Maple Leafs have implemented an internal salary cap, aiming to ensure no player earns more than captain Austin Matthews, who signed a 4-year extension worth $13.25 million per season in August 2023. The team's primary concern revolves around Marner's agent, Darren Ferris, who, according to LeBrun, might push for a percentage of the total salary cap instead of a fixed dollar amount. This could result in Marner's cap hit exceeding Matthews' $13.25 million, conflicting with the Leafs' new financial strategy. Ferris is known for driving negotiations to the limit, often taking his clients to free agency. This raises fears that discussions between Marner and the Leafs could drag on until July 1st, giving Marner and his camp all the leverage in negotiations. Another complicating factor is the rising market. LeBrun noted that Mikko Rantanen believes he could secure $14 million per season as a free agent. This sparks the question, could Marner demand even more? And would Ferris take that gamble, knowing the Leafs might opt to move on and sign another player? Marner has made it clear on multiple occasions that Toronto is where he wants to be. As a local player with deep ties to the city, he's expressed his desire to spend his entire career wearing the blue and white of the Leafs. However, staying with the team may require him to accept less than market value, especially if the front office remains committed to its new salary structure. Such a sacrifice could be vital for the team's collective success and to avoid financial issues that have plagued the recent past. While negotiations are still in the early stages, it's evident that Marner's future with the Leafs is at stake. Maple Leafs fans may need to prepare for the possibility of significant changes, but they can also trust in the player's commitment to the city and the franchise to find a compromise. The Maple Leafs' decision to implement an internal salary cap reflects a broader shift in their team-building philosophy. After years of prioritizing top-end talent with hefty contracts, the organization appears determined to strike a balance between superstar contracts and depth throughout the roster. This strategy aims to avoid the pitfalls of past seasons, where a lack of financial flexibility often left the team vulnerable in critical playoff moments. For Mitch Marner, this shift creates a unique challenge. On one hand, his value to the Leafs is undeniable. A consistent top scorer and elite playmaker, Marner has been instrumental in driving the team's offense. On the other hand, his ability to command a salary that rivals or exceeds Auston Matthews could put the Leafs in a difficult position, especially with a potential need to strengthen other areas of the roster. As the 2023-24 season progresses, the Leafs must weigh the potential consequences of sticking to their cap philosophy. Losing a homegrown talent like Marner would undoubtedly sting for fans and the organization alike. However, allowing one player to dictate financial terms beyond the team's structure could hinder long-term success and force painful sacrifices elsewhere. Adding to the complexity is the looming free agency of William Nylander. If the Leafs are to stick to their internal salary cap, they may also face challenges in retaining Nylander, who could command a significant raise. Balancing contracts for both Marner and Nylander within the new framework could prove to be the ultimate test for Toronto's management team. Another factor at play is the team's ultimate goal, winning the Stanley Cup. While star players like Marner and Matthews are crucial, history has shown that depth and balanced rosters often prevail in the postseason. If the Leafs fail to manage their finances effectively, they risk falling short of building a championship-caliber team, even with elite talent. For Marner, the decision to stay with the Leafs might come down to more than just dollars. His connection to the city, the fans, and his teammates could be deciding factors. If he prioritizes legacy and loyalty over maximizing earnings, there's a strong possibility that he'll work with the team to find a deal that benefits both parties. Negotiations will also test Darren Ferris, known for his hardline tactics in securing lucrative deals for his clients. While pushing for top dollar is expected, Ferris may need to weigh the risks of alienating the Leafs management and fanbase. A prolonged stalemate could damage Marner's relationship with the team and